Raising children is a part of being a human being that I take extremely seriously. Nothing that I've ever done has meant more to me than bringing these children up to be caring, thinking, learning, and loving human beings. I have made many mistakes, just ask my kids, but I continue to learn and to become a better me.
Welcome to the Women Beyond Belief podcast. My name is Wendy Marsman. Dr. Karen Garst is the editor of the book titled Women Beyond Belief, Discovering Life Without Religion. Karen's book is a collection of personal essays from 22 women from diverse backgrounds who tell their stories of leaving religion. Karen also has a blog which can be found at faithlessfeminist.com. This podcast episode is the 9th in a series where Karen reads 2 guest posts from her blog. In the first post, Dorothy Husen writes a letter to her 2 children, apologizing for raising them in a conservative religious home and passing on the trauma she learned from her parents. She emphasizes how much she loved them when they were young and even more now. The second post is written by an atheist parent, Karen Lothan, who talks about how to discuss religiosity with her children. Thanks for listening.
This is Karen Garst, the Faithless Feminist. I'm reading a post entitled Letter to My Children by Dorothy Husen, who is a guest writer on my blog. A letter to my children, Emma, who is 27 years old, and Dustin, who is 24 years old. Dear Emma and Dustin, these are my greatest hopes and desires for you today as I write this letter. For you to love and accept yourselves, for you to feel comfortable with who you are, and for you to trust your intuition to be your inner guide through life. These desires are quite different from when I was a Christian. When I was your Christian mom, my greatest desires for you were for you to recognize your need for God, for you to believe in Jesus to save you from hell, and for you to find your purpose and guidance through faith in Christ. I don't think that any of these desires has anything to do with my love for you. I love you now, and I loved you then. What has changed is my love for myself. Over the last 6 years, I've been healing in therapy from my childhood trauma of emotional and sexual abuse, and at the same time, I've been deconverting from Christianity to atheism. I know you felt the change. Both of you have mentioned it to me. Remember in the movie The Matrix, when Neo was given a choice to either take the red pill and awaken to the reality of how his brain was being hijacked, or he could take the blue pill to remain in the fake dream world of the Matrix? 6 years ago, my therapist held out a red pill for me. If I chose to take it, I would awaken to the reality of my childhood experiences and face my fears. If I chose the blue pill, I would retreat back to where I had been living for the past 25 years, into the Jesus Wonderland Matrix. I chose the red pill. Guess what I found? The truth has set me free. Okay, I'll concede the Bible has some gems of wisdom. So you might be asking why this is important for you. I hope that when you read some of my story, you will come to understand yourselves better. I know that you both struggle with hearing critical and insecure voices in your head. Let me tell you where those voices come from. Those critical voices come from me and your traumatized dad. We put those in your head when you were little because at that time we believed that at your core you were sinful, bad, and rebellious. We were so wrong. You were normal, good kids. Where did this wrong belief come from, you might ask? Well, partly these critical voices were put into our heads from our parents, and partly from our Christian belief in original sin. Here's a little formula to remember. Childhood trauma plus Christian faith equals parents who pass on their trauma onto their children from generation to generation to generation. From grandma and grandpa to mom and dad to Emma and Dustin. You see, that shame that I felt from my childhood, I misunderstood as sin. For most of my life, I felt bad, perverted, sinful, scared, anxious, empty, and unworthy of love because of the shame that I carried within me from sexual abuse when I was a child. Christianity taught me how to manage those bad feelings through spiritual practice like praying and reading my Bible. The Bible taught me to deny myself and my past, pick up my cross, and follow Jesus. I also prayed a lot as a way to escape the pain of inadequacy that I felt. Remember how I used to sleep a lot and take a lot of naps? Yep. I know we reframed it as a family quirk, but this was another way I escaped. These icky feelings increased over time, so that by the time you were children, I was expending a lot of energy managing these yucky feelings. I had PTSD, but misdiagnosed it and misinterpreted it as my wicked, sinful, warped, evil nature. The only coping tools I had were my spiritual practices of prayer, Bible study, and church, which at least helped me feel good about myself some of the time. As you can see, this didn't leave much energy for being your mom, so you naturally felt insecure, confused, and alone. The only solution that I knew of was for you to take the blue pill. Your dad and I were both living in the Jesus wonderland of the Matrix, desperately pulling at you and screaming at you, "Take the blue pill. Please, take the blue pill." You forced us to step out of the Matrix once in a while, just by being normal kids, but we really did not like stepping out. So we yelled at you and argued with you and became very angry with you. We felt hurt that you didn't want to join us. That was not your fault, even though we made you feel like it was your fault. It wasn't. But because we had the advantage of being your parents, we used every parental trick we could think of to get you to join us into the Jesus Wonderland Matrix. We used our whole arsenal of spiritual weapons. We prayed. We recruited our family prayers. We dragged you to church. We forced you to go to Christian youth camp. We sent you to Christian counselors. We sent you to Christian behavioral modification programs. We shamed you. We sent you into therapy. Not us, just you. Emma and Dustin, I am so sorry. It was I who was broken and needed help, not you. I know your dad feels the same. Does this help you to understand yourselves better? I hope so. I can see you clearly now. The pain of the past is gone. I can love you for who you are because I can love myself. I can accept you because I can accept myself. I'd like to leave you with some things I know for sure. Yeah, I know this is an Oprah interview question. Love covers over a multitude of fear. You and I are good enough just the way we are. All life here on earth is the miracle, so live your life and be the miracle. Human beings are born good. Choosing the red pill was not easy, but it definitely was worth it. I love you, Mom. I'm Karen Garst, and I am reading from my blog, faithlessfeminist.com. And this post is written by Karen Lathan. The title is Talking About Religion in Your Skeptical Family. I am certain that one of the most Googled questions by atheist parents today is how to discuss religion with my children as an atheist or skeptic. That's because many of them were raised in a religion and are trying to figure out just what to do. I used to do it by looking online for atheist parenting ideas, though the internet was quite sketchy 15 plus years ago, and there was not much to find. I love it that the internet is around. It makes it possible for us to share our questions and knowledge and ideas so freely. I thought that atheist parenting was far more difficult just 10 years ago, when lifestyles and points of view were far more private, isolated, insulated, and offline. Years ago, I felt very alone in my doubt, unsure of my doubt, fearful of my doubt. How interesting that this generation of parents is the first generation in the history of humankind to have such resources available to them. We can get to know intimate details about millions of strangers and how they live their lives, how they make decisions, what they purchase, what they believe, how they solve problems, and what they struggle with. It is amazing and fortunate. Lucky for all of those first-gen atheist parents out there Googling for information, they will find it. So what does an atheist parent teach their child about religion? Remember, raising a child is a process. It starts before your child is born, and it continues as long as you live. I promise you, you will do fine. Start today and keep learning for your entire life. There is time. Because our American culture is so very saturated in Christianity, religiosity becomes an issue very early in a child's life. I remember my then 4-year-old daughter pointing out to me religious references in the world around her, a world that I paid close and deliberate attention to. Did you hear that, Mama? In God we trust. Did you hear, Mama? One nation under God. As a young parent, it clutched at my heart. It helped to know and to remind myself that she also vehemently believed in fairies, Santa, and magic in those days. Those early years, among other things, are the years of magical thinking, so our children are particularly prone to embracing unrealistic connections between cause and effect, magical ideas, and illogical connections. If you want to read more about those early years, think Piaget's pre-operational stages of cognitive development, for one. 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds are more likely to invent monsters in the closet. Mama got sick because I was naughty. Fairies live at the bottom of the garden. That thing happened because I thought about it. My toys are alive. Something I do, magical things happen. We parents have one single loud thought in our head. Without being a complete buzzkill, how do we instill critical thinking into the young minds of our beloved children so that they are able to, when the time comes, separate religion from the rest of the pack of ideas while still encouraging imagination and pretend and fun? It's actually quite easy once you think logically. Begin by educating yourself on normal childhood cognitive development. When you begin to understand the role that imagination actually plays in a development of understanding reality, you will feel confident in encouraging it. You will understand that later years come, ages 7 to 11, when a child's thinking becomes very concrete and far more unwilling to accept pretend explanations. These are the years when rules are